Alright, what is going on YouTube? And today we got a brand new episode of Quickscoping for Christ. We have been grinding some Modern Warfare 3 2023, one of my favorite CODs of all time. Things have been going slowly, we haven't hit an insane banger yet, but such is usually the case when you're returning to older CODs, you're always going to find a little better luck on the current COD. Most of the time anyway. There are some, outliers in every situation.
I think I speak for everybody.
And we got some big things coming down the road for the series. We are nearing our 50th episode, which I have something planned for. Duality 4 is coming up pretty soon. Not like soon, like not like you gotta be eagerly awaiting on your phones in the next couple week or whatever to see it. But we are nearing that time. And then I have another Call of Duty project in mind for the summer, prepared in my head. I'm also looking for ways to be innovative with this series, and yeah, we're just kind of cooking right now. Got a little bit of Vanguard in here, and I have, as always, I'm playing Black Ops 1 here and there during the week. Maybe I will save up for a conglomerate Black Ops 1 episode. But today we're using the Bible to cover some pretty important stuff. We're covering adultery and sexual immorality today. So, I mean, kind of like younger kid warning. Like, if you're this is kind of more something I'm going to say right here to get your parents involved before watching the rest of the video and have them see if this is like some, content they want you, exposed to and whatnot. And I think it's important stuff, but like little ears and stuff. So that's like a little warning. We're not going into like crazy. We're not going into detail or anything. We're not talking about the big stuff, but it's just like the theme, and you don't want your kids going looking stuff up when they have questions and finding the wrong thing. Like the internet, it's like in a state of being right now. A lot of youths are finding information earlier than would be optimal for them to find that information, and so them applying that information can be skewed from how it should be, stuff like that. And that's not ideal too, because the algorithms can sometimes be rigged to try to tempt the youth, which is not cool. It's not very cash money. That is, it's not teed up at all of the internet to be doing. But we're going to be attacking, adultery and sexual immorality and gooning. Today's episode is an anti-gooning episode, with a culture that not just condones, but also kind of pushes and encourages premarital, intimate relationships with people, and with gooning rates rising across the nations, like never seen before in history. I felt it, kind of prevalent to make this episode. So most people already know, and, a lot of this will already be familiar to some of you guys, but it's said in the Bible, it's the 7th commandment, you shall not commit adultery. And God gives this commandment not just as a commandment for something like He wants to see us be obedient to Him through, but it's also a commandment that protects us as well in this sinful world. But we're going to be using multiple Bible passages to attack various points, and we're going to try to provide evidence against gooning. We're going to provide ways, the counter-offensive method to gooning, and also examples of the Bible where, people got caught in the goon, and, that it went poorly for them. So starting off in Matthew chapter 5, verse 27, we got Jesus himself talking about adultery. He references the Old Testament commands and then elaborates on it himself, saying, "You have heard it said, 'Do not commit adultery,' but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell." So we got a couple different things here. We got Jesus saying that to commit adultery isn't just being maritally unfaithful and breaking, your marriage covenant with your wife and, becoming one with a different partner of any kind. it is also in your heart and in your mind, the whole concept of lusting. And this is basically what gooning is and how we are attacking this, tricky subject. And then secondly, we have this concept of Jesus saying it's better for you to sacrifice yourself and, if your eye's causing you to sin, gouge it out. The things that are causing you to sin, maybe that's, I don't know, like your phone or whatever, an environment, a person, that could be a more applicable thing for you. I certainly don't want people thinking they should be gouging out their eyes, but it would be better than to go to hell because you're living a life of sin. That, full disclaimer, I'm not condoning DIY eyeball gouges or anything of that nature, but you get the point. So he talks about how it's better to give up more than to sin more. What does this look like? Well, it would be very obvious to remove things that were causing you to sin, like maybe a person, maybe a environment, maybe a platform. It can be many different things, but you also got to think about that the unknowing, unwitting, non-present, like just kind of going through the motions, trying to get through your day, mind might be getting psyopped by the culture as well. You just see so much sexual immorality push in pop culture, in media, in music, and you could be getting I'm not saying you are, but it's possible is what I'm trying to say, that you could be getting psyopped. You're listening to this subconsciously, the lyrics, which are the concepts, sometimes ungodly, pumping through your head, and so you could have that thought kind of jiggling around in your brain, making you potentially more likely or predisposed to sin in the way that the song is thinking about. You can sometimes see with people who listen to more violent music being more violent and aggressive, likewise on this particular subject. So gouging out that eye could be more in line with removing from your playlist songs that maybe send you those subliminal messages. Really tricky, really sucky, I know. One thing I would say is to just stay present and be aware of what you're listening or watching. So hold that thought. We are going to be jumping ahead to 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12 to 20, which is a segment written by Paul that we've covered previously on this channel, and we attacked it from a different angle, but we are going to be focusing on it more around the point of avoiding sexual immorality, adultery, and gooning. So, starting off in verse 12, everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Food for the stomach, and the stomach for food, but God will destroy them both. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. By his power, God raised the Lord from the dead, and he will raise us also. So, talking about how, saying everything is permissible, God died for our sins, we're forgiven, but that doesn't mean that since all is good, we should keep doing bad. Because, dopaminergically, it's, probably like a slippery slope and whatnot. If you watch Andrew Huberman, there's a lot of science and literature to support that, you see it sometimes. Brothers getting lost in the Goon. But continuing on in verse 15, do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ himself? Shall I then take the members of Christ and unite them with the prostitute? Never. Do you not know that he who unites himself with the prostitute is one with her in body? For it is said, the two will become one flesh, but he who unites himself with the Lord is one with him in spirit. Right here in verse 18, this is kind of the part in this segment I wanted to focus on, and that is flee from sexual immorality. All other sins a man commits are outside his body, but he who sins sexually sins against his own body. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own, you were bought at a price. Therefore honor God with your body. So pretty straightforward stuff. Paul breaks it down, and he doesn't say to create little life hacks or like ways around sexual immorality or, muscle through it. He says to flee from it. And let me think of a good analogy here. Kind of like sometimes you see the attack helicopters in COD. You stop and shoot at them, and they just gun you down instantly. You instead run away and hide, let somebody else take care of the chopper gunner. And, because you don't got room for that RPG in your inventory or quickscope and you're going for clips, that's dead weight right there. You gotta run, you gotta take cover. That's kind of what I'm picking up from Paul right here regarding this verse 18, flee from sexual immorality. And then I'm going to provide some evidence of someone who tried, or not necessarily tried, but someone who was very strong.
No.
Samson.
No.
Who was one of the strongest people ever mentioned in the Bible.
Yes, dude, that part
did
was
some crazy
insane.
stuff. He kind of soloed this whole army with just like a skeletal jaw. He was just like whooping on them. And he killed beasts, like wild animals himself, with his bare hands. He was kind of gnarly. And he was basically brought down. I'm not going to read all of it. It's in Judges 16 if you want to see it. But as a, man who united himself with a prostitute and then allowed himself to be seduced by Delilah, who, coerced him into giving up the secret to his strength, in which she exploited to their enemies, and he was taken captive when previously he was able to break out of captivity using his own strength. But he still succumbed to lust and the seduction of the temptress, which is that's not good. And finally, there are a lot of verses in Proverbs. Some we've covered already, and some we will cover in the next 2 Proverbs episodes on the Quickscoping for Christ series. But Solomon warns against adultery frequently and gives very nice, colorful pictures and warnings against adultery. And Solomon was gifted incredible wisdom by God himself, and the Bible said that up to that point there was no one wiser than Solomon. And yet, with all this wisdom and all of this speaking against adultery, Solomon had like 700 wives. That is breaking the marriage covenant, because it's a union between one man and one wife. And you see that a lot in the Bible. It's kind of a strange gray area that we can cover in a different episode, in a more deductive study. And then I want to finish with another verse from Matthew, because oftentimes the world will try to lie to you about how it is better and healthier for you to, sin against your body through, adultery and lust and gooning. And this verse is going to kind of, we've disproven that lie, but even if you fall into that lie, provide a counter argument against it, because we know that ultimately our relationship with God and the strength of the Spirit within us is more important than anything we could get from the world, which is so much so what is, kind of pushed on everybody. It's like a mentality that a lot of worth kind of comes from your intimate mobility with others, and you know what I'm alluding to right now. But this is just kind of breaking that down and speaking against it, providing a counter argument from the big man himself, Jesus, good old JC, in Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 to 27. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up the cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what he has done. So right there, everything that the world has to offer us, or claims to have to offer us, is just debunked right there, because ultimately we know that even if it's just pleasure that the world has to offer up, and it's not actual health, it's not actually good for you, which some people will try to lie and push onto you, that doesn't matter, because it's about our relationship with God and our conquest to follow Him. And that is actually nice, because it is a temptation and pleasure that we can push aside and sacrifice and offer up to Jesus, right there saying, take up the cross. And that little verse I read right there. So we can show our devotion and sacrifice to God by obeying Him in this realm that's increasingly hard to do nowadays because of, all of the seductive media kind of being flooded everywhere. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I drove home all my points decently well. I think I covered most of them. It was kind of hard keeping it all track in my head. I don't know how pastors and, even those various TikTok little preacher dudes, I don't know how they do it all. Ultimately, I'm just a quick scoper for Christ. I'm in my own realm here, doing my own thing. Just trying to get people the word and the one way I know how. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you guys. God bless you. Peace out. Please stay tuned for more, because we got more coming. And God bless you. Peace out. I'll see you next time.